And today we talk to Cameron Kusher, who is from RP Data, who are the suppliers of information to the Reserve Bank, and your interest rates, the decisions are made on the basis of information supplied by RP Data. So these are very important people that we're dealing with here. So Cameron, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
Market conditions, generally, just overview?
Fairly flat for the remainder of this year. You're not going to see too much growth in values, but we're certainly not going to see those huge falls in values that some people suggest are imminent for the Australian market.
The variations in performance between the different markets, who are the winners, who are the losers?
Over the last 12, 18 months, Melbourne has certainly been one of the winners, Darwin and Canberra, and the losers have really been Brisbane and Perth. And Adelaide, just a steady performer, not doing too badly, not doing too greatly.
And the best performers in the Adelaide market, top end, bottom end, middle end?
The top end market over the last 12 months, and then over the last 3 months it's been the lower end of the market, but again we think that may be due to the election and some of that volatility on the share market that we saw back in June and July. Population
growth in South Australia driven by defence and driven by mining and driven by education. Big impact, small impact?
Huge impact. I mean, when you've got all these new people coming to an area, they need to live somewhere. And what we're finding right across the nation is that developers are finding it very hard to get finance to build new products. So over time, that's going to create a floor under any price falls that people suggest might happen, and we saw that happen back in 2008. And it's going to create more upwards pressure on prices because there's going to be greater competition for that available stock.
So no 40% burst in the bubble that has been predicted by some in the States?
Certainly not.
For Adelaide?
Certainly not in our view, no. Certainly not in our view anywhere in Australia, let alone Adelaide.
Great. And overall, market conditions buoyant last 15 months. Any predictions moving forward past Christmas?
Past Christmas, probably starting to depend what happens with interest rates. We're thinking it's going to be fairly level playing field to Christmas and probably the first half of next year as well. And then who really knows? It's probably very dependent on what happens externally, how our mining sector continues to go, and if other economies can pull themselves out, such as America and Europe, out of the mess they're in at the moment. So we're thinking for the next 6 to 9 months, probably fairly flat conditions. Maybe Adelaide and some of those markets that have been lagging, though, to outperform markets like Melbourne, Canberra and Darwin.
And finally, any impact from the hung parliament now? Gillard's looks like she's now got up, and interest rates.
The hung parliament, I think people stress a little bit too much about elections. Really the budget's probably the thing that's going to impact on the property market more so than any election. So I think it's just a bit of a mindset that people have, but I don't think it really impacts the market too much. We may see some confidence come back into the market now that we've seen the election result seemingly resolved. And interest rates obviously always have an impact on home buyers. We've seen that they've stayed put for 4 months now. The futures market isn't factoring in any increase in interest rates for the remainder of the year, but we'll probably have to wait and see what happens with inflation next time those figures come out. And if they're outside of the Reserve Bank of Australia's target range, we may have to see a 25 basis point increase.